Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. All right, so it's clear, right? Okay,
Yeah, it's absolutely clear.
okay, good.
So we have like 3 minutes for the webinar to go live. Okay,
Okay, good.
thank you.
So there's no moderator, so I will answer the question and I'll close off the session.
Okay, yeah. Hi, Alvin. Do you want me to broadcast the webinar now?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you. All the best.
Okay. Hi everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning. Would be great if you guys could let me know where you are from. Wow, from Switzerland. Good afternoon. Good morning to Chile. Good evening in China. Good afternoon in Brussels, Europe, Spain. Oh, we've got a good group of people today. It's pretty early in Arizona. Okay, we're gonna wait for probably one more minute, and then we'll start immediately. Okay. I think all of you are mute. I think we're going to just ask questions from the chat room. So I think logistically, here's how it's going to go. I will share the session, and after which, I'll leave the last 20 minutes for us to kind of really connect. And as you ask your questions in the chat group, I'll start, answering them one at a time. Okay, so you've got a question and answers button. You could actually go to the question and answer button and start asking questions. Not using the chat group, sorry. So you should use the question and answers. Okay. All right, I'm gonna start. And again, my name is Alvin. I'm based in Singapore, and associate adjunct professor with the Nanyang Business School. And I used to work for GE Digital. Currently, I'm actually in Sydney, Australia. So it's about 11 p.m. my time right now. So look forward to connecting and answering your question after the session. All right. So this session is really around the case study of GE Digital. So I believe a lot of you would be familiar with General Electric and the digital transformation journey that they have initiated probably about 5 to 8 years back, and they've been very aggressive. And why did they do it? How did they do it? And what were they doing with it? Are the questions that I'm trying to answer. Okay, so why? So if you look from this this page, you'll begin to realize that disruption is happening in every industry, right? Happening in the building industry, happening in the car industry. So if you are a mechanical engineer for a car, in reality, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, they are all software companies that run an autonomous vehicle right now, or electric vehicle. You look at the top left-hand corner, you're looking at a hackathon, which is really driven around by the fact that Ananda is already in 2017, it's already a property company in Thailand, and they are driving what they call themselves an urban tech or urban living solutions company. So it's interesting how disruption has really transformed the way, both technology and how technology is interacting with, our traditional B2B business, all right? GE used to be the #1 market cap in 2001, which is the largest company by market cap. In 2006, GE was the #2. In 2011, GE disappeared from the top 5 of the market cap. And if you look at 2016, very interestingly, you have Apple, Alphabet, which is Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and Facebook. If you kind of think about what they have in common, that 4 years back already, this top 5 companies, what they have in common has been the platform and software. And you think about how GE was responding to do this was very clear to GE that, GE needs and GE wants to be a digital industrial company. And if you are driving value from platform and software, this is something that GE was really disrupted by, and are thinking that what do we need to do differently? So digital is shaping every industry, as all of you can imagine, right? So retail with Amazon, telco, you don't do your Netflix has come and really disrupted that space right now. And then if you look at Spotify, and one by one of these pillars in this industry are going to start falling as a result of how digital is transforming that industry. So it's with automotive. But then we begin to realize, or GE begin to realize that, the industrial world is fundamentally changing and is evolving. And therefore, software is really a vehicle of value creation. Really need to think around, how do we build ecosystem? We can't do this alone. And then assets are really important, really around the fact that asset productivity, asset optimization around leveraging software and platform. So if you think about the three companies here, Airbnb, Apple, and Uber, Airbnb owns no real estate, Uber owns no vehicle, Apple as an app economy create really few apps, but it has millions of capability and app exists on its app store, really driving an app economy. And all of them leverage what we call software and platform. And they are in reality driving asset optimization. So I have a room, I want to put it on a platform, right? So that I can further monetize and optimize that room that I have in my home. Or I have a car and I want to be able to drive it and drive and optimize the asset as a vehicle that I own. I want to put it on a platform and I can continue to monetize that. So winning for us, as we kind of look and take lessons learned from the consumer world, GE began to realize that in the industrial world, platform and software are beginning to be critical in the business model that they were conducting. So as you think about, as GE was thinking about what the consumer world was happening and the digital transformation that was happening. So if you kind of look at this, you think of 10, 12 years back where, the likes of the Amazon will be. Can you guys hear me? Okay. So, hang on, I just want to make sure. Okay, got it. All right. If not, then I will come nearer. So if I'm on and off, I'll let you guys know. I do apologize. So for consumer and digital transformation, what we begin to realize, or what GE began to realize, was that, when Amazon started, 8, 10, 12 years back, they were collecting data, right? Collecting data around whether you're male or female, your age, your income. So the more data you begin to able to drive segmentation, right? With those available data that you have. But the more data you collect, the more you buy online. Now you understand where your parents live, how far your parents, your first child, when you buy for your birthdays, and you get more data. And this is where what we call a psychographic model of you, right? And now you no longer just segment, but you can now do profiling, you can do prediction, and you can do a lot more. And with the model of one, now you become the P&L of one. And now leveraging that platform, while you sell books in Amazon, can you already sell a lot more with, electronics, sports gear, clothing. And this is the evolution of consumer digital transformation, right? Taking data and learning from that saying having more data, having more insights, you now could do and create better value. Putting it on a platform, you now drive greater revenue and really expand your possibility of kind of reaching out to the marketplace. If you look at the industrial world, digital transformation is very similar. As we begin to look, or as GE begin to look at themselves, they look at a jet engine. When they first started, they were collecting a few data, they were collecting insights, but at a fleet level. And then you're creating fleet analytics at a very high level. But when you start where sensors became cheaper, you begin to collect more data. Now you have an ability to create that model of one per asset per flight, right? So you'll know where you are flying to, how many years that you need to service, when was the last inspection, the temperature, the number of flight hours, when it was due to, and all this data becomes so powerful where you begin to drive what we call the P&L of one. Per asset analytics is no longer at the fleet level, but per asset level, you become granular, you create greater value. Now, if you can do it for a jet engine, you can do it for an engine on a locomotive. Can I put it on a platform and leverage a platform where we can ingest data from all kinds of assets and really drive analytics in more detail, and therefore really driving new product, new services, and become a platform for all. So how did GE do it? So GE started this evolution, or GE Digital. They started to form a company called GE Digital. They said, look, we are in an industrial industrial world. We are an OEM. We build large jet engines, large turbines, medical equipment. So what do we need to do differently? So they started to incubate, G started to incubate digital in terms of software, creating software software excellence, center of excellence in India, and then created center of excellence of software in different parts of US. And through that incubation space, we begin to do software work for GE internal businesses, driving analytics for service profitability, incubating and building a platform that we can build all our software onto the same ubiquitous platform so that, we become common, we become, aligned, we become standardized, and therefore drive cost savings and cost reduction. Then in 2016 to mid 2017, they begin to look at, while we are doing a lot of this projects, a lot of using software to drive projects, it needs to go to a product, right? So the focus on delivering projects for external customer started to ask us that, look, we need to start having less customization, really building a product rigor so that we can start thinking about how do we go to market. Not only do we take the software to solve our internal problem, how do we build a business around it? How do we productize? How do we commercialize? And how do we take this to market? And then from mid 2017 and onwards, really creating an app-centered strategy, a clear go-to-market strategy, and really driving a set of portfolio of platform and application that is really recognized by our customers. So to reap benefits from this entire journey, really around IoT and big data, or how I said the journey of digital transformation, it's three simple areas, right? Really around connecting and establishing that visibility, really organizing and make your data visible, right? Then it's really around taking those insights and how do you then drive and manage operations. So leveraging applications such as MES, batch management, workflow, scorecard, and having platforms that ingest data. And then you close loop with the enterprise in really understanding, how do you then optimize with the data that you're getting? How do you then take action, right? So actionable data. How do you then drive analytics? How do you then feedback back into the enterprise so that you become better, so that you continuously learn and become better? So there are really, from our view, from G's view, there are really four foundational pillars of digital transformation, right? So get connected, get insights, and then get optimized, right? So really connecting, taking the data, having the data ability to really monitor, analyze, and potentially predict problems. But then you begin to not just predict problems, but you want to now optimize your equipment, optimize your organizational performance, and really drive overall safety, maintenance, and health to your entire organization, your entire plant floor, and how you're driving that. And then more importantly, how do you then create a feedback loop, reinvent the process to really maximize and feed that back again as you begin to drive this entire cycle. So digital transformation really starts with the fact that you need to collect data. So for us, we begin to understand, how do we really create that playbook? How do we think about what do we do internally, right? So we started by saying we took software to solve our own problem. But as we kind of do that, and as we build a company called G Digital, we begin to say the software that we're doing, can we take it external? But in order to take it external, we also need to transform, thinking about our operating model and our capabilities, thinking about the infrastructure, thinking about the platform that we are building for our customers. What do we need to do? Then we think about how do we then take this to market through a partner ecosystem and a technology partner. Then internally, the way we are selling to our customers, the way we are creating value, culturally, we need to change. And then we start thinking about the way we go to market, our pricing, our incentive, the way we think about our commercial strategy. And this is the start of our transformation, right? Understanding their model, really driving and understanding our architecture from a technical standpoint, building an ecosystem, changing the culture for us, to be more outcome focused, more agile, and then really going to the market with the right incentive, right pricing in terms of both our sales team and our customers and how we were interacting and engaging our customers. So in transformation, there were a couple of very big lessons that GE learned, right? GE learned that, if we want to automate, if we want to digitize by point solution, that was not digital transformation. Digital transformation was not about automating and digitizing point solutions. Digital transformation was really around, if you want to accelerate, it's really around that digital lead. And by having that digital lead, you are really driving what we term a digitally enabled organization, right? And in those building blocks, it's really around the ecosystem. It's really around the cultural change, around workforce adaptability, really having a platform that allow us to scale, standardize, and replicate. And then more importantly, leadership plays a huge role in driving down that digital lead, that digitally enabled organization. So building a digitally enabled organization really take on 4 of these critical factors, and we were executing this concurrently. So what do we do? So you think about the models that we're building and how we were going to market and trying to solve our customer problems. Think of GE Digital as the way SAP or Salesforce is operating, right? So SAP really built their business around the fact that there was a financial model, right? And they started in the finance area, then they moved into an enterprise resource planning tool. Salesforce started really around the customer model, right? You have data around the customer, how you're engaging the customer, and you built an entire strategy and go-to-market strategy and business around the customer. Think about what GE is doing. IoT is Industrial Internet of Things. And GE realized that we are an OEM of assets. And if you think about the amount of data that we can collect on assets because of sensors, we begin to think about how do we then be the SAP, the Salesforce of asset models to drive optimization, to drive predictive maintenance all around the asset model. And that was what GE was trying to do. The portfolio that GE had was really around the platform called Predix, driving application and software around asset performance management, which is APM, around the manufacturing line of business, around manufacturing, around automation, and really focusing on around people, process, and asset or technology. And the software that we built on the platform was really solving the problems of the people, process, and technology. We did not go to the market alone. We really became a team sport with all our partners, right? Whether we were system integrators, software vendors, telcos, technology partners, or resellers, we were going to market with all of them on our platform and on our software. So let me kind of bring this to how we think about the key elements of digital transformation and what were the lessons learned and the key attributes of as you go through a digital transformation journey where GE was an industrial company moving to a digital industrial company. What were some of the key elements that were top of mind for a lot of our GE leaders? So in a new world, in a new industrial world, we were moving from products with a new focus of outcomes, moving from automation to autonomous. People were telling machines what to do. We need to now begin to recognize that machines will tell people what to do. We were a very Six Sigma, lean driven, and we still do that in GE. But we begin to recognize machine learning, AI, and really using algorithms to drive a lot of our predictive maintenance strategy, both for ourselves and our customers. We also begin to realize that it's not just proprietary, it's about ecosystem, it's about open, It's about open and leveraging technology like blockchain. We were no longer thinking about a 3-year plan, but we were thinking about a continuous journey. As you can imagine, the moment you do a step 1 in the world of a digital transformation, you ingest data, your step 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and 10 may look very different as a result of the learning, the ingestion of data, the learning you get from the data, the learning you get from the experience as you take step 1, step 2, step 3, the refinement of your 4, 5, 6, and 7 will begin to happen. And this is really around the new world of digital transformation, right? To think of it as more sandbox driven, where you create sandboxes and you said, let me start taking in and creating insights through my connected ability to connect and create and ingest data for me to learn. And as you begin to learn, it's a continuous learning journey as you evolve. You understand the vision, you understand the dream state, but to detect that I need that 3-year plan and 5-year plan, gone are those days. You are really driving an ability to be agile and be driven by the data that you are ingesting as you move along. So the 5 elements are really around outcome focus. Around, as an industrial company, we no longer think about just being, as we move to digital, to say I'm completely digital and software, but we think a lot about being domain-centric. At the same time, leveraging the data that we have become physical digital or domain digital, right? We think a lot about the new tech stack. We think a lot about, as we begin to transform, how do we learn and create playbooks and blueprint? And then more importantly, and it is really around the foundation of talent and culture. Okay, so outcome focus on products, we move it to focus on outcome, right? To think about it as selling service or products, we are really saying, can I sell leveraging reliability and utilization? Can I sell leveraging performance-based contracts, outcome-based contracts? So really trying to change internally. It was a tough journey for us, but we knew this is what the customers was asking. And we also begin to realize that we cannot be completely a digital company, or we cannot be completely an industrial company. There needs to be a domain and data really around a platform that put together with analytics drives tremendous outcome for us, right? So really around, if we can combine and create a recipe of understanding our domain, having amazing data that we have, leveraging the platform to scale, and taking a lot of the AI investment and our focus around analytics, this immediately drove value for us and our customers' outcomes. And then we think a lot about the thought leadership in the new tech stack, right? Understanding big data, it's important. Understanding artificial intelligence and machine learning, having agile IoT. But the future edition, as we kind of evolve, then drones, AR, VR, bots, 3D manufacturing, natural language processing, blockchain became more and more important as we begin to look at, where the future is taking us, where that new tech stack needs to happen. And really, the blueprint that we continuously refine and think about is around, we do it for ourselves, right? Make yourself your best customer, drive meaningful and really fruitful and meaty progress with clear productivity. Then you begin to embrace the learning, understand what's MVP and be very agile. Do it for ourselves. And as we begin to build those products and solve our problems, our customers are coming to us and said, now, can you help us to solve our problems? So we begin to do it for our customers. So GE for GE, GE for our customers. And then more importantly, as we leverage the platform concept, you build our software on our platform and we scale it. Now we realize that we are now prepared to do it GE for the world. So building on the foundation of talent, leadership, and culture, what was very interesting for us was, the focus around the need for digital native to fundamentally disrupt that digital culture internally and accelerate it. But more importantly, we think a lot about the digital migrants, the people that who have been in GE with the domain. And we begin to start creating that mashed up between the digital native, the digital migrant, and the digital migrants begin to be the translators. Because in GE, we have 20, 30, 40-year-old employees, and we have those 30, 20, 30, 10, 5, 10-year-old employees who are from domain, yet they are aligned with where digital is going. They became the digital migrant who are the translators between the digital natives and the hardcore domain GE employees who have been there 20, 30 years. And so we now draw from a cultural perspective, both agile, we are looking for talent that understand the purpose and the vision that we were going. And more importantly, as this transformation happened, clarity of the mission, clarity of the vision, clarity of the strategy and execution became very important for us. And you know, the biggest lesson for us is we never underestimate the culture. The cultural shift from the traditional industrial companies selling hardware to the digital industrial company and GE Digital, where we are leveraging software to create new value. That two world needs to exist, but the talent and the change and transformation of how we think, moving from OpEx to CapEx, moving from selling a product that has all the features that they need, to selling a software which was around the journey, which was around the roadmap, and how software will evolve and become better in partnership with the customer. So that culture, that talent became critical to really our success. So in summary, and I want to leave time for us to really discuss around some of your key questions and answers your key questions, really around leadership, talent, and culture was the fundamental for us to evolve. That GE became extremely successful. The answer is yes and no, right? Has GE evolved in selling more software products, becoming more of a digital company? And the answer is yes. GE has progressed significantly from where they were. And leadership was fundamental because there was so much churn and change in leadership that really along the way, they had a few pause and that kind of helped them back, and competitors were kind of creeping up. So leadership, talent, and culture was fundamental in terms of the progression and the journey of that digital journey for us. Okay. So I'm going to stop here and I'll start, you know, looking at the key questions that all of you have and begin to start answering one by one. All right. So let me answer. Hi, could you please explain the incubation stage again in terms of what activities that you undertook? So I think the incubation stage, and prior to the incubation stage, there was a recognition, as I mentioned, the why of the fact that GE needs to move into the software and the platform world. You know, we could potentially be selling, you know, $250 million turbine in an emerging country, but the Chinese companies were coming in and were selling it at, you know, 50 to 100 million with, you know, maintenance contract and with people and resources that were 10 times both cheaper and 10 times more in terms of resources to support. So GE began to realize that it is really around the outcome and leveraging software, sensors, and the data that was coming in that was important. And so therefore, creating that software center of excellence was the beginning of that journey before GE Digital became a real company, when the customer were asking to say, hey, with all the software that you, and the platform that you have built and you're solving, can you solve it for us? And that was the incubation stage, right? When we became GE Digital as a company, the incubation stage was saying, hey, let me help you, Mr. Customer, but we were not a product company. We were giving solutions, and we were a project company with highly customized projects, leveraging the software that we had. And we had ultimately started building that in pockets and stages to become more of a project into a product company. And the incubation stage was that learning stage of that complexity that we went through in terms of customization and learning how to not just apply it internally, how to deal with customers. Alvin, sound is very often disrupted. Can you please come closer to the mic and increase sensitivity? Okay, got it. Sorry, guys. Hope it's a lot clearer now. And if you can't hear, please continue to ask me the question. What was the impact of machine learning on AI and on GE resources? I think that we use a lot of AI and machine learning for our products, for our software, for our analytics, for our customer. And that impact was tremendous, right? We create and generate a lot of value, especially around optimization and predictive maintenance for a lot of our assets. But internally, what it has done for us as we're kind of eating our own dog food was really helping, the people who are 20, 30 years within GE who are operating a plant, who have leveraged, the sight of sense, smell, and sight to really turn the knobs and operate a plant. We are now saying to people who have been doing that for years to say, look, instead of operating one plant, can we now leverage digital? Can we leverage software to help you to now operate 3 plants? Can we now leverage AI and machine learning to give you more data so that you're making better decision, more intelligent decision and quicker decision with the right data so that you can do predictive maintenance and optimization of your assets. So yes, there was disruption in the way of culture and how people look at what software, what artificial intelligence means. But more importantly, we begin to allow our employees to learn that it's going to empower them and it's going to expand their role and they can create more value and do more with technology and with artificial intelligence. Okay, it sounds that this digital transformation had a huge impact on the GE culture. What was the main challenges? The key challenges was really around, businesses that was extremely different, right? GE was a hardware OEM industrial business selling to industrial companies who were not the internet companies like the consumer goods companies, right? So number one, it was a culture of selling hardware, using CapEx. The way we go to the customer was, a food product, a product that will not fail. As we begin to move towards a software and really running and understanding internally, leveraging more data to make decisions, more software and leveraging platform to scale, that culture, that MVP, minimum viable product, that agility, that the fact that you are using software that's not 100%, but over time, feedback from internal, feedback from customers, your software becomes better. That journey, moving from CapEx to OpEx, that was hard to kind of integrate. And what we did with that was really around the fact that, we had that digital migrants, digital natives, and really creating that whole agile concept. And HR played a big role, right? HR really drove the way, through our lean startup mentality. Eric Rice wrote a book called The Lean Startup, right? And this was something that he learned from the Silicon Valley. So we hired Eric Rice, who wrote the book, and we leveraged, his concept of creating, a lean startup culture internally, right? Where we became agile, where we test, iterate, and learn, where we look at projects that are in sandboxes. And we think a lot about when we fail, we want to fail fast, we want to learn. So pivot, persevere, kill. And then how do we then test, iterate, and learn quickly? What does digital translator mean again? So right, digital translator or the native or the digital migrants, when we say translator means how do you take domain, which, the traditional 20, 30-year-old GE employees understand. Now you take digital and software and say you apply that on top of the turbine. In order to run the turbine better, we want to put in more sensors, ingest more data. At the same time, we want to put in software to take data out to understand and create that insight and then start driving efficiency and productivity. And then we begin to use AI and ML on top of the software, on top of the application to now drive predictive maintenance and to drive optimization. So the ability to translate between what we do from a mechanical thermodynamics to, the ones and zeros and the digital, that was important for us to merge the culture. And those translators were showing why digital was important and connecting the digital natives to the core domain people, right? What percentage of your employee in GE Digital was from outside? When we first started to build GE Digital, they were looking at possibly 60-40, right? We were trying to say, let's bring in a lot of digital natives. And then there were like 40% that we took from internal. They were like kind of digital miners, right? What had happened was we began to realize that in order for us to win, in order for us to be relevant to our customer recognize GE as domain. And if we go in to our customer and say we're a digital company, then they think of us and say, maybe I can work with the HP, the IBMs, the Cisco, the Googles of the world, or the Amazons of the world, or the Microsoft of the world. So it was really around the fact that we understood the domain of thermodynamics, the domain of what we do in oil and gas, in power, in aviation, in healthcare, and then bundle that with digital was that kind of the secret sauce that allow us to be more relevant, right? And so with that learning, we begin to realize that we need to start transforming, the traditional domain people within GE to create a culture of digital, agile, and helping people to appreciate that we need to move into the world of digital industrial. What were the key initiatives? Okay, so the key initiative number one was really the lean startup, where it was implemented by HR to all employees across board. We went through this program of 3 to 4 days, and we took a lot of the work that Eric Rice through the book, The Lean Startup, and we applied it internally, and we call it the fast work. So like how we have leveraged Six Sigma, we call it fast works, and it was a program internally to really help our employees to really understand what it takes to be more agile, like in the Silicon Valley. So domain-centric IP and how that's impacting digital. Again, domain-centric, as I said earlier, was around the work that we do, right? The power, the energy, the thermodynamics for aviation and physics. This is really what GE was good at. But we took that domain and we said, look, now we lay on top a layer of data, lay on top a layer of application, and then we begin to have analytics, and then we begin to have AI, which is learning and continuous learning through data. This is where it became very important for us to differentiate ourselves, right? So domain, data, digital, okay? How do you integrate new KPI and traditional KPI, which we're used to? This was difficult, right? Getting traditional KPIs to the new KPIs. So the world of software and platform, the KPIs were how fast were you launching products? How fast were you changing your code and upgrading them? How fast were you getting the right feedback from customers so that you become better at what you do and create a better user interface? In a world of hardware, it was like from day one, as you launch a product, you need to be kind of perfect, right? So that KPI difference was huge for us, right? So we begin to, as the culture evolved, as the translators happen, as we begin to appreciate why data became important to everything that we do, then the KPIs were more driven really around outcomes, right? And then we begin to define outcomes and then leverage outcomes to work backwards to drive the KPIs. It seems like GE went from products to you move to a platform business. So when you say product, software is also a product, right? Hardware is also a product. We move from really, and in reality, GE has always sold products. We were moving to an outcome-focused company where solutioning was important, where leveraging a platform to scale for our customers was important. To put on a piece of software and say, now we can manage not one of your manufacturing site, we can now manage 100 sites around the world was important. Yeah, so we really move, to an outcome-based company, but with a mindset of, we are no longer selling products, but it is really around services. It's really around software. It's really around solutions. How do you, it appears similarly to IBM. IBM has always been a tech company, right? IBM has built tech hardware products. I mean, GE was an industrial company that was building infrastructure and moving into big infrastructure projects, right? Helping an emerging country to turn on electricity, right? Wind turbines, helping a country to evolve so that people now have a new airline that they can fly. So it is not similar, right? It is an industrial company that was trying to transform to a digital industrial company. How did GE manage new generation of digital talent compared to the culture of somewhat lifelong employment? That was difficult, right? And I think the more GE become and recognize why data is important, why data is the new gold or the new oil, why software and platform, from how I shared with you, that transformation, the digital disruption was happening in other industry, was happening around us, and the customers' requirements, demands were moving towards digital. And this was where, that new generation of digital talent became more and more important because they would become more and more relevant to our customers, right? And so the lifetime employees will become and begin to understand, right, that digital is a bit of more transient. There's a lot of turnover. Digital talents can migrate and move very quickly, right? It's no longer purely domain. But we begin from a cultural standpoint and understanding that it cannot be a domain-centric culture mixed with a digital culture, but it is so let me rephrase. A domain culture is living on its own, a digital culture living, and they are two separate groups. No, it needs to be a domain and digital centric culture combined. And that was that transformation that we were trying to push. Okay, with regards to cultural change, what was the level of people, resources, rotation, how did we manage it? In every business that we had a digital transformation team. We had both team internally in IT, we had team internally in business. In everything that we do, we rethink about the process, but how is digital, how is data driving the outcomes for us in all those internal process and internal outcomes. But more importantly, as we kind of evolve, the GE digital business, which was the software and the platform arm of GE, were beginning to show that we were transforming and we were disrupting a lot of what our customers were doing. And that was, the aha moment for a lot of our internal employees, that digital is real in the industrial world. So I'll give you an example, right? We spend a lot of time with, the likes of Schindler Lifts, right? It's a lift company. They are a bit like us, an industrial company building lifts that moves up and down on large buildings, right? And when we were partnering with them and we were leveraging and trust our discovery and our outcome workshops with their leadership team and providing that digital transformation advisory, we were fundamentally helping them to rethink what outcome meant to them, right? So they were hardware, CapEx selling lifts. And with lifts, the more sensors they put in, the more they understand how the lift moves up and down the building, how many people are coming in and out of the building. Through the partnership with GE, they begin to say, should we be a data company? Should we be selling lift as a service? And when those customers were evolving and changing for us, they became great use cases for us to kind of share and explain internally. And that was the beginning of how some of the employees were beginning to say, I got it now, right? The aha moment came and said, digital is happening, that digital disruption is happening. Leveraging digital fundamentally changed the way we address our customer, changed the way we are driving, becoming more performance outcome-based relationship with our customers. How did GE undertake data collection experience, and how was data collected practically, and how did it help? and I'm not going too deep in terms of technical. We had a predicts platform that has an ability to take, OT data and IT data and put it in a data depository, a data lake that is able to normalize, clean the data so that this data becomes a lot easier for application, for analytics to actually pull from. And this is why platform became very important. So the platform technology became a critical aspect of the world of industrial, right? Because you've got different protocols, you've got operational technology environment that were not IT, which was in the internet, the IP, right? The internet protocol. But the world of industrial, you had all kinds of protocol. And that was where the biggest value of our predicts platform played, was to allow all the sensor data from different protocol, from different environment, coming into a platform and make it simple and easy for us to build application and leverage those data. Did you see personally any special benefit of creating digital? Do you think it was necessary to create? Yes, I mean, GE Digital was a core component of that transformation, right? The core component was helping GE both internally, customer, and really helping us to address and be more competitive and be able to differentiate ourselves against competitors, right? So really around the fact that, forcing ourselves internally to be disrupted and transformed. Externally, it was really around revenue generation. It was really around customer demands, and customers were guiding us to the fact that we need to be a digital industrial company, right? From a software development perspective, the architecture of G Platform cloud-based, is it built on Kubernetes, containerized, hybrid, agile basis? I'm not that technical, but the answer is yes. We use containers, we use agile, we have microservices, and we really leverage the latest technology to really build the platform so that it's no longer sitting on premise. It is really around sitting on a cloud stack. And we actually partner with the likes of Amazon, Azure, leveraging their infrastructure as a service. We create a platform as a service and the application that sit on top of the platform, okay? What of the financial cost of this transformation, or was there any ROI done posted? So along the way, we had really different businesses driving different transformation, right, internally. That transformation internally was really around how do we digitize an entire manufacturing plant of our turbines, for example, right? And then we measure the ROI. So we've been extremely successful in a lot of this saving to say, we apply the software that we built into our plants got the savings, and the savings became value for us to reinvest into the software that we're building. And then ultimately, we took that same piece of software and we went to the market, right? How long did it take marketing to integrate the switch from hardware, and what was the main marketing operation in order to clarify the new vision without scaring the historical customers? If you kind of really think about the world of digital, everything happens around us. You think about the iPhone, you carry an iPhone. You think about Netflix, you think about Spotify. You no longer do things that are normal, right? So for our customers in that journey, it was never scary, right? The customers were asking, how do we get there? What were the challenges? We are an industrial company, or we are a manufacturing company, we are a chemical company, we are an airline. How do I get there? So from a marketing standpoint, we were very focused around, what was the new outcomes and the new world would look like for an industrial company if you start leveraging data, start leveraging platform software, the outcomes that you can get out of it, the predictive maintenance, the cost saving. So the marketing aspect was really focused around use cases, right? Despite such a well-rounded, comprehensive approach, what was the worst thing that had gone wrong on this journey? I think if you ask me, working for GE Digital, and now, I have left, a couple of months back. GE Digital, I guess the biggest challenge was ensuring that we get the right leaders in place, right? So leadership was critical. We had a lot of very talented people, but culturally, leadership-wise, and how internally it was coordinating, collaborating was a challenge, right? And it was really around leadership that was kind of the showstopper. But GE as a company, as you guys are aware, what had gone wrong was really around the power space, the power vertical, right? We read the market wrongly. So it wasn't about digital. It wasn't about any other big aspect of GE. GE was still progressing extremely well in aviation, in healthcare, but the power sector was a sector where we did not move fast enough into renewables. We did not move fast enough to understand how customers were thinking about the future of power. And therefore, we had a lot of inventory, right? I mean, you built a 250 to 500 million turbine, and if you can't sell it and you have 6 of that, that's inventory, right, in billions. So this was where, GE was not quick enough to read the market. Number 2, there was this whole leadership challenge that GE was facing, okay? How was ROI calculated? In a lot of our digital transformation, especially internally, we were really driven by the fact that can we automate a manufacturing line, for example, like giving you an example, a manufacturing automate line. And if we automate this line, can we be faster? Can we have less downtime? Can we be more optimized? Can we be more efficient? Can we produce more products in a shorter time? What is the speed to response, speed to value? So that these were more operationally driven in around the factory. And then there were other aspects of things like supply chain as we were digitizing. There were other aspects of procurement that we're digitizing. So in every different aspect, we had different set of ROI that we were calculating, right? Do I understand correctly that collecting data is the first step to start digital transformation? Answer is yes. However, do we know first on what do we have to do with the data? Yes, I mean, the key in a lot of companies these days that fundamentally the understanding of data is critical, right? And I agree with you that if you don't have a plan to think about what does that mean to make faster, more intelligent, and more accurate decisions to drive growth, revenue, and profitability. If you don't even understand that you need data to drive that, then I agree, you shouldn't even be going on a digital transformation journey, right? Does culture in GE has been transformed completely? Oh man, we are still in progress, all right? Can you give us a real life example how data analytics increase revenue and reduce costs? The one example you gave was to predict maintenance requirement. What about other benefits? How does data? I mean, data analytics is used in all kinds of aspect within both our businesses and our customer businesses, right? I'll give you an example of I'll give you an example of a wind turbine, right? So in a wind turbine, it's very dependent on weather patterns. It's very dependent on geographical patterns and the season of time and year. Wind turbines, and when the wind blows, they change all the time, right? And therefore, having analytics of historical data of both geographical and weather patterns, having analytics of historical data, the current data, and the future data of weather, and combining that and understanding how then do you optimize the blades, the position of the blades to drive efficiency and optimization of the energy you produce. That's number one. Number two, we then begin to use AI to start predicting when certain patterns were going to happen. Therefore, how do you align the blades, not just in one wind turbine, But if you want to, in orchestrating 10 turbines to work with each other, and how do you optimize and drive maximum power generation, that you need AI, right? Because you want the 10 turbines to talk to each other. You want historical data. You want weather patterns. You want dynamic patterns to begin to sense and respond. And that becomes a complex mathematical analytical model. And therefore, you need computer, you need algorithms to really drive that, okay? When organizations go for new hiring, sometimes they offer higher position and salary to incumbents than existing employee. Did it happen in G this year? The answer is yes. And if we don't do it, we're not going to attract the right talent, right? So in reality, the answer is yes. However, what we have done is we begin, especially in digital, as we begin to take G digital people into the we begin to take the GE team into the G team, right? So for example, someone was working in aviation, G aviation, and they want to come to G digital. As they move in, we begin to adjust some of those salary to be more aligned within a software company pay scale versus an industrial company pay scale, right? Because the software, the assumption is this, right? You sell software, you get greater margin. You sell hardware, you get less margin. So the assumption is with the same amount of revenue stream, if you're driving software and you're building software and you become a software business, that margin is there. And therefore, these are the people, the more digitally savvy people that you want to drive. But what we begin to learn along the way is not only do we want digitally savvy people, we want domain-centric people so that we can apply and go to market with our domain and digital strategy, right? Did this transformation in any way affect GE staff strength? Yes, it does. I mean, I think we can do more with less. It also does create churn as a result of change, right? So people are uncomfortable with change, people are leaving. So transformation does affect, the staff strength. But with that said, G Digital was a new company. We were hiring people. We were growing the people in the business double-fold. So we were hiring people, right? Do you have a lot of software developer right from the start of the transformation? We started with a center of excellence with a lot of software, and then we begin to realize that we shouldn't build everything ourselves. We need an ecosystem. We partner with Microsoft, we partner with Amazon. So we actually string the amount of software people that we're doing. And then we were very focused around building the platform and application and not building the data center and everything behind that where Microsoft and the likes of Google and Amazon has already built that. So we started to really transform ourselves a year and a half down the journey to really look at partnerships with technology companies. Okay. Is Predix available to external company? The answer is yes. We actually have applications that we do, and then there are companies who say, I want to build and develop on your Predix platform. Can you go through some case studies? Unfortunately, I'm running out of time. Can you give an example of continuous planning? When I say continuous planning, I mean, or continuous journey. What I mean is, we need to be extremely conscious and have the culture of understanding that as you ingest data, insights will change. And as the new data come in, that insights will fundamentally change the way you think and you plan, right? So you need to take into account that agility and that continuous learning approach to planning and building a plan. You have a vision, you have an outcome, you have a dream state, you know roughly the first 5 steps and you nail it down, but your 6 to 10 steps, you want to be clear that you need to give some leeway for that agility, okay? Predix platform used internally to drive analytics optimization for other business. Yes, the Predix platform is used to do that. May I speak a bit more about reading the markets, please? Any tools to use in this task, just so that we avoid not selective or uncomfortable aspect to emerge out of not really understanding your question. What was the data strategy of GE Digital, and have you given a few examples? And interesting to know, how you follow a data strategy. So there were kind of two data strategy for GE Digital as we go to market, right? So there was a strategy where we were doing services and we were maintaining our customer equipments. We retain the data, right? And because we retain the data and we have a lot of data from other customers, through our analytics, we could help our customers to be more efficient and all that through benchmarking and through comparing. There are customers who say, no, GE, I just want to leverage your software and your AI to drive my own optimization, my predictive maintenance, to drive my insights and my efficiency from whether my plant floor or my piece of asset or equipment. Then we don't hold the data, right? So we've been very clear that, from a cloud perspective, from an application perspective, we can't see your data. But if we are servicing you and we need to help you to benchmark and drive continuous improvement in your process, in your technology, then the customer allow us to take the data and then we leverage the data to benchmark and then help our customers to improve, right? So we do have a data strategy. And again, as you can imagine, data is gold, right? So we do have models of our turbines that allow us to understand when a turbine is healthy, unhealthy, or sick. And those library of what we call library of our models became very critical and important for us to do predictive maintenance and predict modeling of how do we optimize our equipment, how do we know our equipment is functioning at its optimal, okay? So thank you, team. I know we didn't have a lot of time, so really appreciate you listening in. I know there is a lot to cover. You have a lot of questions. Go online. There's a lot of reading. You can pull out a lot of the GE example and the GE journey and digital transformation journey, and they're all very good questions. So thank you very much, and look forward to speaking to all of you. You are taking further lessons and other examples again. Thank you.